Good morning. Today we are going to start the first chapter in first module. The chapter is Shakespeare's Sisters, written by Virginia Woolf. Let us begin with Virginia Woolf. I know all of you are very familiar with Virginia Woolf. In semester 4, you have studied one of her famous articles, How to Read a Book. The English novelist, critic and essayist Virginia Woolf ranks as one of England's most distinguished writers of the middle part of the 20th century. Her novels can perhaps best be described as impressionistic, a literary style which attempts to inspire impressions rather than recreating reality. Virginia Woolf is an English novelist, critic and also essayist. She is the most distinguished writer of the middle part of the 20th century. Her novels described as impressionistic because she attempts to inspire impressions rather than recreating reality. That's why we can call her novels as impressionistic. Then I want to speak about the early years and marriage of Virginia Woolf. Virginia Woolf was born into late Victorian London on January 25, 1882. Her mother was Julia Stephen, famous in the artistic and literary world for her beauty and in high demand for her skills as an informal nurse. We can see that Virginia Woolf was born into a late Victorian London on January 25, 1882. Her mother was Julia Stephen. She was very famous in the artistic and literary world for her beauty. At the same time, she was also demanded for her skills as an informal nurse. Woolf's father was Sir Leslie Stephen, a well-known literary critic and founder of the Dictionary of National Biography, who struggled with a sense of inadequacy in spite of his reputation. The family lived at 22 Hyde Park Gate in London and rented a summer house at St. Ives in Cornwall. His father was Sir Leslie Stephen. He was a well-known literary critic. He was also the founder of Dictionary of National Biography. Their family lived at 22 Hyde Park Gate in London. They already rented a summer house at St. Ives in Cornwall. The children grew up with governesses, and while the boys went on to school and university, the girls received much less formal education. A particularly sore point with Woolf and a spur for her feminism. However, she read hugely from her father's library and developed a formidable and individual intellect. We can see that in that period, boys got the permission to be educated. The girls received much less formal education. That's why Virginia Woolf read a lot of books from her father's library and developed a formidable and individual intellect. Her parents' literary circle also helped to develop the foundations of her writing and thought. Virginia and her sister were educated at home in their father's library, where Virginia also met his famous friends who included G.E. Moore and E.M. Forster. Then young Virginia soon fell deep into the world of literature. I already told you Virginia Woolf spent a lot of time to read books. Her parents' literary circle also helped her to develop the foundations of her writing and thought. Virginia and her sister were educated at home. Both of them started to read the books from their father's library. Then we can see that Virginia also met his famous friends G.E. Moore, E.M. Forster. Like that, young Virginia fell deep into the world of literature. Julia and Leslie had each been married previously. With the first wife, Minnie Thackeray, Leslie had a daughter, Laura. He floundered at being widowed and left to bring up the young girl, who had increasing emotional and developmental problems. Julia, a friend of Minnie's, seemed a lifeline. She had 3 children with Herbert Duckworth, whose sudden death gave her the sorrow that many friends saw as her main characteristics. George, Stella, and Gerald, along with Laura, were part of the new household when Julia and Leslie married in 1878. About Virginia's parents' life, we can see that Julia and Leslie had each been married previously. Leslie had a daughter in his first marriage. Julia had also 3 children with Herbert Duckworth. Finally, they decided to marry. They married in 1878. James Russell Lowell, the American poet, was her godfather. Her mother, Julia Jackson, died when the child was 12 or 13 years old. In 1912, 8 years after her father's death, Virginia married Leonard Woolf, a brilliant young writer and critic from Cambridge, England, whose interest in literature as well as in economics and the labor movement were well suited to hers. We can see that her mother, Julia Jackson, died when she was just 12 or 13 years old. 8 years after, her father also died. That's why Virginia married Leonard Woolf. Woolf was a brilliant young writer and critic from Cambridge. He was also interested in literature as well as in economics and also labor movement. As a result, Virginia Woolf also showed the interest in literature, economics and also the labor movement. More than that, even we already understood from her childhood onwards, she started to read a lot of books from her father's library. In 1917, for amusement, they founded the Hogarth Press by sitting and hand printing on an old press 2 stories by L. and V. Woolf. The volume was a success, and over the years they published many important books, including Prelude by Catherine Mansfield, then An Unknown Writer, poems by T.S. Eliot, and Kew Gardens by Virginia Woolf. So we can see that husband and wife, in 1917 they founded Hogarth Press. It was a hand printing on an old press, 2 stories by L. and V. Woolf. They published many important books. In that list we can see that Prelude by Catherine Mansfield, poems by T.S. Eliot, Kew Gardens by Virginia Woolf. The policy of the Hogarth Press was to publish the best and most original work that came to its attention, and the Woolfs as publishers favored young and unknown writers. Virginia's older sister Vanessa, who married the critic Clive Bell participated in this venture by designing dust jackets for the books issued by the Hogarth Press. Hogarth Press published the best and most original work that came to its attention. They also published the favored young and unknown writers. We can also see that Virginia's older sister Vanessa, she married the critic Clive Bell. Clive Bell also participated in this venture by designing just dust jackets for the books issued by the Hogarth Press. Virginia Woolf's home in Tavistock Square, Bloomsbury, became a literary and art center, attracting such diverse intellectuals as Lytton Strachey, Arthur Valley, Victoria Sackville West, John Maynard Keynes, and Roger Fry. These artists, critics, and writers became known as the Bloomsbury Group. Roger Fry's theory of art may have influenced Virginia's techniques as novelist. We can see that Virginia Woolf's home, which became a literary and art center. Many intellectuals, they visited their home regularly. We can see that the group of intellectuals, Lytton Strachey, Arthur Valley, Victoria Sackville West, John Maynard Keynes, Roger Fry. These artists, critics, and writers became known as the Bloomsbury Group. Roger Fry's theory of art may have influenced Virginia's technique as a novelist. Broadly speaking, the Bloomsbury Group drew from the philosophic interests of its members, the values of love and beauty as essential to life. Virginia was influenced by Bloomsbury Group. That's why we can see the influence of Roger Fry's theory of art in Virginia's technique as a novelist. Virginia Woolf began writing essays for the Times Literary Supplement when she was young, and over the years these and other essays were collected in a 2-volume series called The Common Reader. These studies range with affection and understanding through all of English literature. We can see that Virginia Woolf began to write essays for the Times Literary Supplement. After that, the other essays were collected in a 2-volume series. It is called The Common Reader. These studies range with affection and understanding through all of English literature. Then I want to speak about achievement as novelist. We already understood she was influenced by Roger Fry's theory. That theory she used in Virginia's techniques. Two of Virginia Woolf's novels in particular, Mrs. Dalloway, it was published in 1925, and To the Lighthouse, it was published in 1927, successfully follow the later approach. The first novel covers a day in the life of Mrs. Dalloway in post-war London. The second novel, To the Lighthouse, is in a sense a family portrait and history rendered in subjective depth through selected points in time. Then I want to speak about her last years and other books. Virginia Woolf was the author of about 15 books. The last, A Writer's Diary, posthumously published in 1953. That was her final work, A Writer's Diary. Her death by drowning in Lewes, Sussex, England on March 28, 1941 has often been regarded as a suicide brought on by the unbearable strains of life during World War II. A war fought between the Axis powers, Japan, Italy and Germany, and the Allies, France, England, the Soviet Union and the United States. The true explanation seems to be that she had regularly felt symptoms of a mental breakdown and feared it would be permanent. We can see that she died on March 28, 1941, often being regarded as a suicide because of the strains of life during World War II. At the same time, she had regularly felt symptoms of a mental breakdown. So she feared it would be permanent. That's why she committed suicide. Then I want to speak about her works. Mrs. Dalloway to the Lighthouse, Jacob's Room. All these represent Virginia Woolf's major achievements. The Voyage Out, it was published in 1915, first brought her critical attention. Night and Day, it was published in 1919, is traditional in method. The short stories of Monday or Tuesday, it was published in 1921, brought critical praise. In the Waves, it was published in 1931, she masterfully employed the stream of consciousness technique which stresses free writing. Other experimental novels include Orlando, it was published in 1928, The Years, published in 1937. Virginia Woolf's championship of women's rights is reflected in the essays in A Rooms of One's Own and in 3 Guineas. Then I think all of you understood the life and works of Virginia Woolf. So then I want to speak about Virginia Woolf's very famous essay, A Room of One's Own. In late October 1928, Virginia Woolf delivered a lecture on women and fiction at Newham and Girton, the two women's colleges at Cambridge, England. Virginia was invited to the two women's colleges at Cambridge, England. The colleges were Newham and Girton. She was delivered a lecture on women and fiction in these two colleges in late October 1928. Woolf had written the lecture in May in 1929. She expanded it into what is now A Room of One's Own, and the essay was published in book form on October 24, 1929. Virginia Woolf had written the lecture on women and fiction in May 1929. After the lecture, she expanded it into A Room of One's Own. This essay was published in book form on October 24, 1929. The dramatic setting of A Room of One's Own is that Woolf has been invited to lecture on the topic of women and fiction. She advances the thesis that a woman must have money and a room of her own if she is to write fiction. Her essay is constructed as a partly fictionalized narrative of the thinking that led her to adopt this thesis. We already identified Woolf has been invited to the two women's colleges, Newham and Girton. There, she wanted to deliver a lecture on women and fiction. Based on the lecture, she published the essay A Room of One's Own. In that topic, she deliberately wanted to add A woman must have money and a room of her own if she is to write fiction. That's why she made imaginative characters. Through those characters, she proved that a woman must have money and room, then only she can write fiction. Woolf cannily utilized the setting of the lecture. The fictional university she visits, Oxbridge, is an amalgam of England's prestigious Oxford and Cambridge universities, and the comparison of the luxurious male and ordinary female facilities must have surely hit home at Newham and Girton. Woolf carefully utilized the setting of the lecture. She made a fictional university named as Oxbridge. Oxbridge has a quality of England's prestigious Oxford and Cambridge universities. Through this Oxbridge University, she made the comparison of the luxurious male and ordinary female facilities. Definitely, it must have hit home at Newham and Girton. That's why she made a fictional university, Oxbridge. She also incorporated real people into her essay. Aside from the many writers past and present, she discusses the narrator is a barely concealed version of Woolf herself, and even imaginary writer Mary Carmichael, whose novel Life's Adventure the narrator dissects, shares the pseudonym of birth control leader Mary Stopes. Virginia Woolf also described the real people into her essay. In addition that, she also added many writers past and present. She had her own style in writing an essay. She also examines the imaginary writer Mary Carmichael. Through the work Room of One's Own, Woolf examines Mary Carmichael's novel Life's Adventure. Woolf also shares the pseudonym of birth control leader Mary Stopes. Mary Stopes also wrote a similar novel, Love's Creation. We can understand that Virginia Woolf wrote the details of Mary Carmichael and also Mary Stopes through their works. A Room of One's Own is considered the first major work in feminist criticism. Through this work, Virginia Woolf proved that a woman must have a room of her own. Then only she can write fiction. She will get freedom. Through the fictional character Judith Shakespeare, she proved a woman must have a room of her own. Then only she can write fiction. The narrator begins her investigation at Oxbridge College, where she reflects on the different educational experiences available to men and women, as well as on more material differences in their lives. She then spends a day in the British Library pursuing the scholarship on women, all of which has written by men and all of which has been written in anger. In this work we can see that The narrator started her investigation at Oxbridge College. Based on that investigation, she reflected on the different educational experiences available to men and women. She also spoke about the material differences in their lives. She spent a day in the British Library to collect the details of the scholarship on women. She identified that it has written by men. Turning to history, she finds so little data about the everyday lives of women that she decides to reconstruct their existence imaginatively. The figure of Judith Shakespeare is generated as an example of the tragic fate a highly intelligent woman would have met with under those circumstances. When she identified the material differences between men and women, she started to examine the history. She didn't get any details of women in the history. That's why she decided to reconstruct the women's existence imaginatively. As the result, she created a very strong character, Judith Shakespeare, through her work A Room of One's Own. Judith Shakespeare was a highly intelligent woman. But what happened in her life? Definitely, we should meet Judith Shakespeare in our first chapter, Shakespeare's Sister. We will start the chapter in our next class. Woolf also exposes the gender consciousness that she believes cripples both male and female writers. Most men, she maintains, derogate women to maintain their own superiority. Most women are angry and insecure about their inferior status in society. Woolf also reveals the gender consciousness. She strongly believes that the gender consciousness we can see in male and female writers. Most men in this world, they want to prove their superiority on women. At the same time, most women in this world, they are very angry and they feel insecurity about their inferior status in society. Male writing then is too aggressive, whereas women's writing is reactive. Both genders thus obscure their subjects and instead focus on themselves and their own personal grievances. According to Woolf, male writing is always very bold, very strong. Women's writing is reactive. They are ready to react whatever happening or happened around them. So that's why she says both genders should cover their subjects and they should focus on their own personal grievances, their own personal immoral acts. In light of this background, she considers the achievements of the major women novelists of the 19th century and reflects on the importance of tradition to an aspiring writer. A survey of the current state of literature follows conducted through a reading the first novel of one of the narrator's contemporaries. Through this work, she also speaks about the achievements of the major women novelists of the 19th century. She also proves the importance of tradition to an aspiring writer. Woolf deploys a number of methodologies: historical and sociological analysis, fictional hypothesis, philosophy, notably to answer her initial question of why there have been so few female writers. She ties their minority status largely to socio-economic factors, specifically their poverty and lack of privacy. Woolf used a number of methodologies. She used historical and sociological analysis, fictional hypothesis, philosophy to answer her first question: why there have been so few female writers. When she examined the history, she didn't get any work of women. She also found the reason for the lack of female writers. So she ties their minority status by socio-economic factors, their poverty and lack of privacy. Her mantra throughout the essay is that a woman must have £500 a year and a room of her own if she is to write creatively. Virginia Woolf uses this powerful mantra throughout her work, A Room of One's Own. She makes us understand that every woman should have her own room. She must have £500 a year. That means woman should have the ability to stand herself. She should not depend on her father, brother or husband. If she is ready to earn herself, then only she will get the freedom. She can write creatively. Through this work, she reminds us every woman should have their own identity. A woman must have £500 a year and a room of her own if she is to write creatively. This is the message she is giving to the entire world through her very famous essay, A Room of One's Own. So, if you please take the page number 3 in your textbook. Virginia Woolf, English author, essayist, publisher and writer of short stories, was regarded as one of the foremost literary figures of the 20th century. Virginia Woolf was born Adeline Virginia Stephen in 1882 to Sir Leslie Stephen and Julia Prinsep Stephen. Her youth was a traumatic one, with the early deaths of her mother and brother, a history of sexual abuse, and the early death of her mother, and the beginnings of a depressive mental illness that plagued her intermittently throughout her life and led to her suicide in 1941. During the interwar period, Woolf was a significant figure in London literary society and a member of Anne Bloomsbury group. Her most famous works include the novels Mrs. Dalloway, To the Lighthouse and Orlando, and the book-length essay A Room of One's Own, with its famous dictum, a woman must have money and a room of her own if she is to write fiction. Today we went through the modernist writer Virginia Woolf in detail. We also understood the sittings of her very famous essay, A Rooms of One's Own. We will start the first chapter, Shakespeare's Sister, in our next class. Thank you.